What's the grossest, most regrettable thing you've done while doing the deed? Let's find out. Story 1. Mine happened about 5 years ago. My now ex-girlfriend had just left me for a girl, and I was feeling pretty down and lonely. I didn't think I was good enough to meet a girl in real life, so I ended up meeting this woman on an internet dating site. She looked a little chubby in her pics, but I kind of like women with a little meat on their bones, and I had just been broken up with in a horrible manner, so I thought, what the hell? Well, I show up her house, and she is way bigger than her pics led her on to be. She was at least 350 pounds, if not close to 500 pounds. And, well, you guessed it, I done her anyway. In the middle of us interacting, she started wheezing, like seriously wheezing. Well, I finished real quick. I have nothing against obese people, but she was big enough to where I'm guessing she couldn't wash herself properly, and stood up and walked around to her, doing her Scooby-Doo style. That was the only way that was possible, to see if she was alright. At this point I'm worried as hell that she is going to die, that I actually had interacted with her to death. Her kids were also sleeping in their rooms. Again, not my finest hour, still wheezing and breathing even more heavily. She makes me go into her bathroom, which looked like it hadn't been cleaned in a year and literally had cat poo laying around the floors, and get her inhaler. This woke up her oldest kid, who walked into her bedroom, me in my boxers and her still naked, under a sheet though. I had to introduce myself to him, but fortunately the woman had gained enough of her breath back to yell at him to go back to bed. I ended up staying there for 30 to 45 more minutes, just to make sure I wasn't going to make an orphan out of this kid I just awkwardly met. Wow, seeing all these details in writing. I think I'm going to take a shower now. Story 2. Okay, more traumatizing than anything, but hey, being given a blow in the back room of a club, pretty out of character for me. Girl wants to have funky time, and I was a virgin, so who am I to disagree? She gets up, goes to get a rubber, and is skipping merrily back to my body when she trips, hits her head on a table, and passes out. I kinda didn't know what to do. I was underage in a club, had an unconscious girl, and a rapidly growing pool of blood next to me. Turns out blood flow to the scalp is pretty ferocious. And to top it all off, a nice rise under belt. 3 hours and an ambulance ride later, she's getting the last of 12 stitches in her head and kissing me on the cheek as thanks for getting her to a hospital. And that's how I almost lost my virginity. Story 3. Not gross, but regrettable. So I can set the scene. Pool in my backyard, driveway separated by gate about 15 feet away. At 17 years old, then GF and I decided to fool around in my pool, parents not at home. Things keep going, and eventually we start getting busy. Boom. Mom sneak attacks, coming through the driveway gate to say hello, noticing we were both in the pool. She was vaguely aware we were dating, so she didn't pay any care to the fact of our position. Didn't have time to pull out / maneuver, so I just pulled her closer and made it look like she was floating on my lap. Forced to carry a conversation about the day's otherwise mundane events with my mother while still busy inside the cave. Completion wasn't an option, and didn't want to talk to either of them for the rest of the day. Story 4. I dated a girl who was more kinky than anyone I'd been with at the time. I was pretty new to anything beyond the basics, so I kind of figured, whatever she's into, I'll give it a try and see how it goes. We started out pretty basic, and then she tells me she wants me to ram it in her face. I'm thinking she means kind of a rough blow, but no, she's talking about full-on throat poking. We get started at it, and I'm kind of digging it, trying to take it slow so I don't hurt her, but getting down in there. She pulls away for a sec and says, harder, so I oblige. She keeps signaling to go harder, which I do, until I am right down into her gullet now, which I can see as she's lying on her back with her head hanging off the edge of the bed. Really impressive suppression of the gag reflex. She's got tears in her eyes, makeup running, it's getting pretty hot and kinky. I'm just about to get off, and all of a sudden her eyes go wide and vomit explodes out of her face. I mean, from every possible exit. It's on my legs, all over her face and chest, the bed, the floor, and she's still coughing it up, and in the middle of all this I reach the moment and start dribbling on her face. She's laying there crying. I run to the bathroom, jump in the shower, and promptly vomit as I'm trying to wash myself off. The both of us spent about 10 minutes recovering, and then about the next 40 minutes cleaning up. I was gagging the whole time. I'm pretty sure that's the last time she ever wanted to do that. Story 5. I don't regret this, but it was certainly gross and disgusting. A new girl moved into the apartment right below mine. The landlord gave her my roommate's number, so we could work out parking spaces, and she hit us up to see if we wanted to get a drink at the corner bar. She was already pretty drunk when we showed up, as were we. We had a few more drinks and eventually walked back to our building. She took us to her place, and we continued to drink in her kitchen. She then proceeded to start taking off her clothes, apologizing each time, saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's just too hot to be wearing a shirt." Eventually, she's standing there in the buff, and after a long silence, my roommate, God bless him, says, "So, do you want to do the nasty with both of us, or?" "Okay." We look at each other, shrug, and follow her to the bedroom. Now at one point, I'm Scooby doing her while she's down on him. I ask if she has any Lubo, and she points down next to the bed. I look all over, but all I can find is an unmarked bottle with a spritzing top. I've never used Lubo, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be in a bottle like that. "Is this it?" Okay, whatever. I spray some on. Sniff, sniff, this is perfume. I just perfumed my bits. I tell her it's not it, she sighs, opens a cabinet that I hadn't seen, gives me the real stuff, and goes back to work on my roommate. In retrospect, I really should have been worrying about the possible effects of perfume on my rubber, but it didn't occur to me at the time. Anyway, Lubo goes on, I go in, good time had by all. But that wasn't the gross part. Roommate and I switch places. Now she's on her back while he's enjoying her, and she's down on me. I decide to complete. Now that that's taken care of, I'm getting that come-down feeling, as the reality of the situation washes over me. Here is a girl that I met 3 hours prior. I just had fun time with her with my roommate, and her head is still in my lap while he continues from the back. I've never had this before. Before this, I've only actually had a good time with one woman at this point in my life. What on earth is going on? Before I have a chance to really grasp any of these questions, she suddenly bolts up and runs out of the room. I look at my roommate in confusion, and he says, "Dude, she poo on me." Sure enough, there was crap all over him and a nice brown stain on the bed. That concluded our evening. Story 6. Short version. Used to have huge curly hair like Claudio from Coheed or Blake from Workaholics. Went to a party, got absolutely hammered along with everyone else, started hooking up and moved to a bedroom, thought I'd go down on her to impress, ended up puking on her downtown area. She sat up and puked directly into my hair. We were so grossed out that we both kept puking. I remember puking into my cupped hands, trying to prevent it from getting everywhere, and trying to throw it out the window, only to realize there was a screen on the window. It was an absolute disaster. Story 7. Met a really hot girl while out with a few friends. She approached me, and we really hit it off. Went back to her apartment at the end of the night and began to make out. For some background, I'm pretty short, 5'5", and have a baby face. She went on to say how this is why she was attracted to me, and thought I was cute. I'm pretty shy around girls and don't hook up much, so by this point I'm smitten and starting to get really into it. That's when she suggests taking it up a notch. She pulls out this novelty t-shirt and pants. They both are supposed to look like a rabbit when worn together. It has the cartoonish belly of a rabbit on the front of the t-shirt, the pattern of a small rabbit's tail on the back of the pants, etc. I sort of shyly go, we could just keep making out if you want. She talks me into it, and a few minutes later we're doing a whole heap of completely non-sexual stuff that she found stimulating while I'm dressed as a cartoon rabbit. Story 8. Ever try Dave's Insanity Sauce? Well, it is really hot as hell. Not enjoyable and has no flavor, and I love spicy food. So I had a bottle of it when I was in high school. I used to fuck with my friends and put just a dab on the rim of their sodas or whatever and watch them freak out. It was always funny. They had done it to me a couple times, so it was all in good fun. One day my GF at the time comes over right after me, and my boys got done smoking a blunt and messing with each other using the hot sauce. My boys leave, so I put the moves on my lady. After about 30 seconds of petting, she stops kissing me and grabs my wrist to pull out my finger. She said with the most concerned look I have ever seen on anyone's face before, and says, "Were you doing it with that hot sauce? Did you wash your—" She could not finish the words. She screamed and ran to the shower. She must have been spraying herself out for over an hour. My dumb ass, after her being in the shower for 10 minutes, goes into the bathroom to apologize and pee. And of course I did not wash my hands. Instant karma. I had my junk hanging into the sink basin, splashing it off and apologizing over and over, and she is in the shower cursing at me. Guess it was not a game ender. We have been married 4 years and have 3 kids, so. Story 9. I was seeing a guy, and one day I went on my computer to find myself signed out of everything. So I checked my history just to see if he'd covered his tracks. He hadn't. What I found wasn't that disturbing, just like PVC and very mild BDSM. I thought I'm cool with that, and kept my mouth shut. So I ordered some strip shoes, a PVC catsuit, soft whips, handcuffs, rope, and a toy, which I was fully intending on using on myself. Set up the living room while he was working, got into my dirtiest mood and waited. He came home around 6 p.m., and his jaw drops, and we get down to it. He starts asking me to hurt him little by little, whipping him and legs, etc. Then he wanted me to ride him and punch him in the face. So I'm sort of thinking this is a little weird, but in for a penny in for a pound, and I accidentally bust his nose, so there's blood going everywhere, and he's just like, keep going. I gave him a tissue, and he sat up and was saying how into it he was, and we should carry on. So I think I'll give him a little playing with myself show. He's suffered, right? No. He wants the toy in him. I'm not comfortable with this, but what the hell, so I lube it up and give it to him, noting to myself that he wasn't that tight around the bunghole. It is at this point I can hear a key in the front door. Who has a key to our front door? In walk his mother and 3 older sisters. While I jump up to find something to cover my PVC-covered self, he's tied up bent over the couch, blood everywhere. His mum's face is unbelievable, and as he looks around, the dildo slowly slides out of him. Oh my. Story 10. I guess I have to put this here. I was with a girl who was just a friend with benefits, to help me get over an ex that I still loved and wanted to be with. Once my ex and I decided, over long talks, to get back together, I obviously said to the other one that it was over. So one day I met my ex after work, we had serious talks about us, then went and had wild sex in her place. Was great, except she was on her time of the month. It was messy, but we didn't care. However, my bits were plastered with it. I then went home and got properly drunk. Passed out on my bed. Little did I know, the friend with benefits still had a key to my apartment. Next morning, she's next to me. I don't remember anything, but she tells me that she passed by to give me a goodbye blow, while I was passed out on my bed, with my GF's blood all over me. It was dark, she never knew. I'll take it to the grave. Story 11. This isn't all that horrible, just a note moment. As a teen, I used to play into a rotation of 3 to 4 pairs of cotton boxers that I didn't really like to wear, so their sole purpose was just to serve as yogurt catchers. I'd sit in my desk chair, cue up the videos, lay the boxers over my stomach, then go to town. When done, I'd toss them into the laundry hamper or the corner of my closet, whichever met my particular whim for the evening. Well, our town was built on an anthill, and when it rained, our house would have war waged on it by the tiny creatures. Once, after a particularly rainy week, I had already run through my normal set of clean boxers and was faced with the decision of reusing a done-in pair. Being someone who was slightly OCD, having the crusty, smelly articles on me was not an appealing choice. But being a teenager, not doing it all was an even more unappealing choice. So I geared up, got the crusty boxers sitting next to me, opting to bring them front and center only at the last moment, and went to town. The moment was nearing arrival, so I grabbed the boxers and covered my stomach. Desperately searching for the perfect picture to reach my crescendo with, I noticed an unusual sensation. It was like someone had turned on a fan and pointed it at my crotch. All my hairs were gently twitching. I looked down and saw that everything was completely covered with ants. I shrieked and fell over backwards in my chair. Apparently, as the ants were raiding the house, they found my crusty boxers and decided that this was worthy ground to capture. In the darkness of night, I'd failed to realize their advancement and had absconded with their conquest, putting their Lilliputian mission control directly over my privates. OCD fears confirmed and further ingrained. 2 out of 10 would not repeat. Story 12. Teabagging my girlfriends at the time. I was thinking it would be funny to fart. I gave a hard push. God blessed me at that given moment to shart in her face, and as a reward gave her pink eye. Story 13. This happened about 3 years ago, when my then GF and I were experimenting with some new ideas. She really wanted to try using a beads, and I figured what could go wrong. So we lubo them up, and before we start really getting into it I stuff them in, one by one. She seems to like the sensation, and I like that she likes it. I get behind her, and I'm just plugging away. She seems to be getting near. I get ready by putting my index finger in the little ring that is sticking out. I wait for the signal, and she says, "Oh my God, it's happening." So, I did what I thought I was supposed to do. I reared back and ripped that cord like I was trying to start a lawn mower. A couple things happened. First, she shrieked like someone donkey punched her unexpectedly. There was also a loud pop noise as the last bead came out, like a really big bubblegum bubble had burst. And finally, she sprayed poo-poo everywhere. On me, on the bed, on her legs, and across the room. I didn't know what to do, so I just kind of froze, and there was a few seconds of silence. Finally, I put the beads down and felt like Steve Urkel when I asked, "Did I do that?" We broke up a few days later. It was too much to overcome. Story 14. I was messing around with my high school girlfriend in the bathroom at a party when I was 16. We were both completely crap-faced, and I got struck with the urge to do something kinky, so I decided to go the 9.5 weeks route and slather something on her with the intention of licking it off. Of course, being in a bathroom, the only thing available was toothpaste. Story 15. So, I was 16 and stupid and had been dating my ex. Now he's my best friend though, for about 8 to 9 months. His parents were out for the night, and he invited me over to have dinner and then sit in his hot tub with him. I knew that meant have fun time in the hot tub, and I was eager to try something new. So I told my parents I was having dinner with his family and went over there. We ate mac and cheese and watched TV, then put our suits on and got in. We started out just sitting, but it heated up pretty quickly and fun time was imminent. The only problem was being in the water stole all my body's natural lubo, and he could barely get it in. When he managed, it hurt. I asked if he had any lubo, and he said he'd go check. Well, he didn't. However, when he reemerged from the house about 5 minutes later, he had in his hands a small tub of Crisco. At first, I told him no. No way was I letting him put that in my vag, but he begged, persuaded, and pressured me, and I folded like a paper cup. So he drags 2 fingertips through the Crisco, rubs it all over him, and we resume the moment. I'm really turned off by the thought of this, but I figure I'll get over it. I was wrong. He gets inside and starts moving, and the feel of the Crisco is just repulsive, and all I can think of is, oh God, how am I going to get myself clean? And I stopped almost immediately. I was so grossed out by the thought of it, and I just couldn't continue. We agreed to clean up and move inside to a bed, which obviously worked a lot better. But later that night I spent forever in the shower, just trying to get the feeling of Crisco out of me. Story 16. In college, I was a TA, and twice a week I had tutoring sessions from 8 to 10 p.m. I had to return the lab key immediately after to my Oakham prof's office. I would usually leave it on his table and split. This happened for a few weeks until I started thinking I should go through his drawers. I don't know why. I may have had a crush on him, but he is old. Anyway, I think he knew that I was starting to go through his stuff because he would always be there when I returned the key to his office. We started chatting, and I had this insane thought that I should really have fun time with him. I found out that he is widowed and his only child, a son, was a pre-med at another college. I started going to my tutoring sessions prepped for fun time, washed, waxed, and ready. A couple of weeks before finals, I returned the key as usual, and we started with the usual small talks, and it happened. Not going to go into details, but we kissed and had fun time like animals. He knew exactly what he was doing, and when he finally put his pump into me, it was intense. He lasted for a while, and I remembered thinking, this old man can hold his own. When the time came, we stayed still for a minute or two, and he told me his arm was getting numb from me laying on it. I got off, and I knew something was wrong. He looked a little confused, and I knew he was going into cardiac arrest. The first thought in my head was I need T.O. get dressed, and I need T.O. get him dressed before I can call 911. So imagine this, me running around putting my clothes on, then my dress. I couldn't find my undies anywhere. Then I had to put his boxers on, then his pants, then his shirt, and arranged him on the floor to make it look like he fell down. I called 911, and while waiting for them to come, I realized that his hair was a mess. I ran to my bag and pulled out my brush and started brushing his hair. Completely messed to say the least. This whole time, I kept telling him the story. I found you here, when I returned the key, remember that. The ambulance came and they triaged him. It was indeed a cardiac arrest. By now, the room was swarming with personnel from the school and medic. I still can't find my panties. I decided to ride in the ambulance with him, in case he forgets the story. At the hospital they treated him, and the prognosis was good. His son showed up at the hospital, and I stayed for a few hours to make sure that the prof was okay. I was scared out of my mind because I can't find my undies. It would be worse if someone else finds it. I was scared that I was going to get expelled from school if anyone finds out. His son thought it was sweet that I was so worried about his dad. I gave him my number and told him to call me with updates, and I left. Well, the prof recovered and we acted like nothing happened. His son actually called me a couple of weeks later asking me out. Yes, I said no. Till this day, I still can't find my undies. Story 17. Although it wasn't as daring as some people like to make it, there's still that thought of what will my friends and family think, while you're walking around declothed outside with a stock on. Details. I guess I've always been into showing off, ever since I was a young kid. At some point the movies on Cinemax wasn't enough, and one day I had this great idea of riding my bike declothed in my backyard. So I waited until my parents were gone, took off my pants and underwear, and went riding around noontime. Looking back at that day I realized that I wasn't as careful as I should have been. I never even stopped to think about the possibility of my neighbor catching his 9-year-old neighbor riding his bike declothed in the backyard. That was then. Maybe it's because internet video doesn't do it anymore, but I have now begun to resort to walking around at night declothed. I'm not the exhibitionist that likes to show off to people and give them a show, but the exhibitionist who does it for the thrill of almost being caught. I have been caught a few times, twice completely in the buff, and once with a ripped-up boxer brief being held together by my fingers. The DSM will tell you that I have a problem. The law will tell you that it's illegal. Society tells me that I'm a sick, perverted boy, but I'm just an average guy who is a little deviant. I do take precautionary measures when I go out. For example, I only go out after midnight to prevent sightings from both adults and especially children. I'm a considerate creep, believe it or not. I don't do it often. I stay in the shadows and try not to make noise so I won't disturb sleeping people. The whole thing is regrettable. To be honest, I wish that I didn't do it. Each time afterwards an outing, on my way home I think to myself, why oh why, one of these days you're going to get caught and consequences will never be the same. To the 3 people who have seen me, I didn't mean to flash at you in the wee hours of the night. I hope we can still be friends. Story 18. Okay, so this story is from when I was 17, stupid, and an avid member of a forum for a comic. I had this girl I really liked, her dad didn't like me, and I kind of thought I was a ninja deep down inside. I read Real Ultimate Power, and didn't completely realize it was a joke. Yeah. So I decided I was going to prove to this girl how awesome I was so she would date me, and I'm posting on this forum trying to decide how to best do this, when the forum starts encouraging me to break into her house one night and show her my ninja skills by sneaking past her dad. I think they thought it was a joke, but in my hormone-addled dumb as shit 17-year-old mind, it was the best idea ever. I was dead set to show this girl I had real ultimate power. So I sneak out of my house one night and sneak into hers. Her back door is one of these sliding glass doors, and the guys on the forum had shown me a website that talked about rocking it open despite it having a bar in the door. It worked. But holy crap, the door came off of the damn track and slammed hard on the floor, cracking the glass. Being the little badass that I was, I snuck into the house anyway and hid in the kitchen, planning to wait until the coast was clear, and then sneaking into the girl's room and posing all badass. Oh, did I mention? I was dressed as a ninja and had a nunchuck with me. Somehow, I thought I was the most badass kid in the whole world. Her dad comes out, and when he sees the door smashed on the floor, flips on the light and calls for his wife to call the cops. Crap. I moved into action. I have no idea to this day why I did what I did, but I was in action. I jumped up behind him, wrapped the nunchuck around his neck, and told him to keep quiet, that he was in the grasp of a ninja. Well, he caught my stomach with his elbow. Hard. I felt the wind get knocked out of me and lost control of the nunchuck, hitting the floor behind me. He looks kind of shocked to see some dumb-ass kid dressed as a ninja in his house, and this shock buys me the time to run off to the stairs and up to his daughter's room. I can hear the old man pounding up the stairs behind me as I burst into her room, out of breath, in pain, and she's all scared because she thinks there is a burglar in the house. Almost immediately, I catch an alarm clock to my forehead as she begins chucking crap at me. My plan is buggered beyond repair, so I do what any ninja would. I run over to her window, open it, and prepare to jump out the second-story window into the bushes below. That'll break my fall like it does in the movies, right? My 14-year-old brain said, damn straight. You're a badass ninja. Her dad runs in, he is furious, his daughter is screaming, and my one goal now is not to be unmasked. I throw myself feet first through the window, and the screen is still there. My future girl's old man is crossing the distance, cursing and yelling as I frantically kick the crap out of the window screen. Finally I get it out, and throw myself haphazardly out of the window. I catch the bushes, but they don't break my fall so much as tear the crap out of my clothes. I hit the ground on my ankle and feel the crunch, then get the wind knocked out of me again. Her dad is running down to get to where I am, and I try and stand damn. My ankle is broken. Somehow I managed to scramble off his property into the ditch that ran near the house before he could get to me, and hide while I wait for him to go back inside. I make it to my house, muddy, torn up, limping on a broken ankle to find my parents waiting in the dining room. Of course they woke up when they heard sirens, checked for me, and found I was gone. I have never gotten so busted on by my parents in my entire fucking life. I'm grounded for a year, lose computer access, the whole 9 yards. The few times I can sneak to the forums to say great idea assholes, my buddies there are half laughing their asses off, half shocked it was for real. Dumbest thing I've done in my life, and all because of raging hormones and the desire to impress a girl. Story 19. The Stage had a full week stay in Phuket, Thailand, taking a U.S. Navy ship home after being in Afghan and other countries in the Middle East. All us eligible NCOs were allowed to rent hotel rooms and call the ship once a day to let them know we weren't dead. So about 3 days into this madhouse of Far East debauchery and depravity fueled by practically free alcohol and pharmacy runs, things start getting weird. My 3 buddies and I go out for the night, but our other buddy decides he's going to stay in and watch American sports on the TV. So we all go out and don't come back until we're really drunk and rowdy at 3 a.m. We buffalo up to the room, break the door off its hinges with Spartan kicks, and storm into his room to mess with him for not coming out to party. The scene, we go in and see this. Dude is sprawled on the bed, wearing whitey tighties, a leather underarm pistol holster with a beer in it, a cowboy hat and boots, is holding another beer and a handgun he got from somewhere, and no other clothes. All the lights are turned on full. The balcony door is open, and there are 3 short Thai girls standing out there looking in and smoking cigarettes, dressed like yakuzas from Hollywood films with all black leather and Matrix sunglasses. They're all watching the TV, which has a basketball game on. My buddies and I are momentarily stunned from not expecting this to be going on in the hotel room. Then we look over and notice a girl, maybe 20, in just her undies, standing in the corner facing the wall. At her feet is literally a pile of bananas and banana peels that goes up to her knees. It must be 100 bananas there. And she's just standing there, eating bananas. Every minute or so she drops a peel, bends down, gets a new one, and eats it, repeats. We ask what is going on, and our buddy, obviously done up out of his mind, looks over, raises one hand that has a beer, raises the other that has a revolver in it, and just stares at us. We hear a noise from the bathroom, and right before I walk over to see who's in there, the girl suddenly doubles over, turns around and lurches over to the bathroom like she's gonna throw up. She pushes open the door, and we walk over to look inside. There is another lady handcuffed in the bathtub. The banana girl hobbles over and full-on pukes on the handcuffed girl. The stench in the bathroom is like sweet overripe bananas and stomach bile. The girl getting puked on isn't doing much, just lying there emotionless. She is absolutely covered in yellow/brown vomit. Apparently, this had been going on for hours. There is a flash, and I look to see one of the Thai pimps on the balcony is taking pictures of the scene, which has my bud, the near-buff cowboy, on the bed, us looking into the bathroom, and a Thai hooker puking bananas onto another Thai hooker. I spin around and yell at my buddy what is going on, and he looks over at me, scratches his head with the barrel of the revolver he's holding, and just says, "What? I'm partying here." The other 3 guys and me slept in a different room, and at the end of the week, we got back on the ship for America and never talked about it again. Story 20. After my wife, at the time, giving me the cold shoulder for, I kid you not, 2 years, things finally reached the point we had to split up. The day she moved out, I immediately began a quest for some strange. Unfortunately, being out of the game for so long, close to 6 years, had turned my already poor game to a non-functional shadow of its former self. After striking out night after night for months on end, I worked myself into a bit of a depression. I did the only thing I could think of, register on some internet dating/casual websites, browse CL, etc. After about a month, I began chatting with someone in my local area. Her profile pictures didn't exactly flatter her, but I figured, how bad could it be? We agreed to meet at my place in a couple of hours. This is where things went south. Turns out she didn't have a car and wanted me to go pick her up. I flatly refused, starting to have second thoughts. She said she would take the city bus, even though the closest stop was half a mile away. She just wanted me so bad. At this point, I began thinking with the wrong head and calmly agreed. She would arrive in about 2 hours. I showered, changed, and smoked a couple of bowls to calm the ever-rising sense of fear and dread churning in my gut. She finally arrived about 2 hours later. The first things I noticed upon opening the door, her looks were much worse than her profile pictures, and the odor of BO and cigarette smoke was overpowering. I gagged a little bit, but kept my cool, thank you MJ. We sat on the couch, drank some soda, made small talk, etc. The whole time I'm having a full-scale war in my head if I should claim to have a headache and kick her to the curb, or make a move and go for it. Well, we can all guess what I did. Yup. Leaned in and kissed her. Tasted exactly like an ashtray, but at this point I didn't care. Gonna end my dry streak. After making out on the couch for a while with quite a bit of heavy petting, we went upstairs and stripped off what was left of our clothes. I should note at this point the only thing I can smell is BO with a hint of stale cigarettes. While I normally enjoy to dine at the Y, I opted to skip the buffet and just end my dry streak. So I pulled her to the edge of the bed and performed. Didn't feel half bad. Pretty good actually, until I noticed the faint whiff of feces. The smell continues to get worse and worse. So I stopped briefly and looked down. What I saw defies anything my mind is able to process. My bits are covered in a rainbow of dark brown, light brown, and almost greenish poo. She is covered in a rainbow of dark brown, light brown, and almost greenish poo. I am completely unable to comprehend what I am seeing. I can't think of anything to do except stand up and mutter, "I think you should leave," as I start getting dressed. She simply sat up, said okay, put on her clothes, and left. As I watch her walk away from my house, I strip down, toss all the clothes I was wearing into the garbage can, take the hottest shower I can stand all while scrubbing myself until I bled with a scrub brush and antibacterial soap. I repeat the shower process multiple times over the next few hours. I'm convinced had I not been stoned out of my mind, I would have killed a bitch that night. Story 21. Met a girl at a party. She was not really my type, kinda loud, a bit abrasive, rather heavy, kinda smelly and hippie-ish. She started talking to me, and I didn't want to be rude, so we talked for a while, maybe 15 minutes. One thing I said to her was that I was always impressed how easily dogs could meet one another, just walk up and start sniffing crotches. I think she took this as a hint. I stopped talking to her, and went to hang out with my friends at the party. Well, I guess she must have really hit the sauce then. Several hours later, when the party was breaking up, I was about to go home, when this girl comes and attaches herself to me, and literally starts humping me. I was pretty much sobered up, but she was exactly the opposite. She insisted that I come with her back to her place. I hadn't had fun time in almost a year, so I said okay. I hadn't realized that she had also been smoking cigars all night. We walked a ways to a park with a beach, and she suggested we go skinny dipping. I'm always up for skinny dipping, so I said yes, and she really threw herself at me then, rubbing up and down. I had to really hold her back and convince her that we should go to her place before we got arrested. We went back to her apartment, and the first thing I noticed was cat shit on the floor. She pushed me out to a balcony, took down my pants, and gave me a blowjob. I was okay with things up to this point. Then she started kissing me, and let me say here that I am not a smoker, and that smoking kind of disgusts me. Her mouth tasted like I was tongue-in-cheek the most foul ashtray in the most foul dive bar in the most foul ghetto in Calcutta. I wanted to hurl, but she pulled me back to her bedroom and demanded that I do things to do I really would rather not. Okay. I folded. I can do this. I tried to oblige her as much as possible, but I was looking at this kinda heavy, kinda smelly woman with my hand where it should not be. She keeps trying to kiss me, which makes me want to puke every time. She asked me to keep going, which I did for a while, but I was so grossed out by the whole thing that I literally could not maintain myself, and had to fake it. After we were done, she nuzzled up next to me and said she really liked me, and that she wanted to see me again. And then, thankfully, she passed out. Several weeks later, I started getting red bumps on my junk. I was understandably freaked out, but after visiting a doctor, he said it was just a skin infection that can sometimes be carried by people with poor hygiene. Anyway, doesn't matter, had fun time.